impressive 3-4 press coverage. I get it. But we both love Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Ramon.
Touchdown, State!
Yes! In your face!
Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville.
This is Whataburger Friday Night Stars, presented by Game On Sports, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the Dallas Cowboys Headquarters. Here's Kyle Youmans, Zach Wolchuk, Eric Chiofalo, and Hekma Harrison.
Oh boy, week 7 of Whataburger Friday Night Stars, but more importantly, week 7 of Texas high school football, all put together by Game On Sports. But man, we've had an outstanding week. We've been on the air for 3 hours. We've had 3 hours chock full of content, chock full of football, a little bit of weather mixed in between, but the football games happened. Minimal lightning delays, which is positive. Some monsoons happening, especially in Mansfield. We'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. But overall, it has been a ton of fun to be with you. Now it's time for overtime.
My favorite part of the game.
Favorite part, right? Favorite part. We're going to bring you up to 11 o'clock with all the Texas high school footage, highlights, and reaction to the scores around the North Texas area. Kyle Youmans, Hekma Harrison, Zach Wolchuk, and Eric Chiofalo. Glad you're with us. And guys, let's start things off. And really one of the games of the week, Flower Mound Marcus and Hebron. Both teams come in with a winning record. Hebron, of course, lost a heartbreaker last week to the Coppell Cowboys, the Cardiac Cowboys, as they come in 3-2. Flower Mound Marcus 4-1. And right now we've got ourselves a tight ball game. What happened in this one, Eric?
Yeah, well, they just got the dagger. And by they, I mean Hebron.
Wow.
Yes, Mr. Trajan Bridges. It was 4th and 2 with a minute left in the game. Hebron's up by 8 at their own 31-yard line. And on 4th and 2, Mr. Harris drops back and throws a 31-yard touchdown to Trajan Bridges. That makes the game 35-20 with 56 seconds left, all but wins it for Hebron. And they kept Justin Dink in check. We said coming into this game, that was the guy for Marcus. They wanted to get him the ball. We know he can 150 yards and a touchdown last week. Well, they kept him in check, 56 yards on the day. They forced it into Garrett Nussmeier's hands, the quarterback. He had himself some big plays. Marcel Brooks, we know, is a heck of a receiver. He had 2 big touchdowns. But otherwise, I mean, they kept him in check, 10 for 25, under 50% completion percentage. So Hebron did exactly what they needed to do, put the ball in Garrett Nussmeier's hands, and they come out on top.
Yeah, that's another big win for Hebron if they do end up pulling this off. What was the score one more time?
35-20 with 54 seconds left.
Yeah, so it's basically over, barring any kind of Marcus miracle. Hey, that'd be
the Stars showed up tonight, though. I mean, I know Dink was held in check offensively, but he did have a 97-yard kickoff return. Bridges scoring all over the place, Marcel Brooks. So, I mean, the big guys showed up and made plays today.
Jalen Lott, a huge game, over 200 yards rushing.
Huge game for him, absolutely.
Yeah, you look at really Hebron, this is a win they needed in district play against a good Flower Mound Marcus team.
Yep.
It's an impressive win overall. Moving on to Frisco Lone Star and Independence. Frisco Lone Star stays undefeated in District 5-5A play as they win this one 27-6 just across the carpet here at the Ford Center in Frisco. And overall,
that defense is amazing.
They are very amazing. 1 touchdown early in that first quarter from Independence, and other than that, it was shut down absolutely underneath 200 yards. It looked like for a second there, Independence actually led this game 6-3, but Lone Star turned it on, and even the offense got into the act a little bit, throwing the ball for 230-plus yards. So an impressive win for Lone Star, and another game of a single digit on that other side of the football.
That says everything about these guys. But the most impressive stat is that 64 yards of rushing that they held Independence to. I mean, it's hard to run against this front 7 of the Lone Star. These guys are, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and they got after the quarterback, 5 sacks tonight, holding Independence. You see they're under 180 yards of total offense, and they just do what they do on offense. They get enough. Julian Larry, a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown. Marvin Mims caught a touchdown. They're their number 1 weapon at receiver. So Lone Star, well-oiled machine.
Larry's a guy, that quarterback, man. He's from last week to this week. I think he loves playing at the Star, guys.
I think you're right.
Credit to that defense for giving up an early score and then shutting him out rest of the game.
Yeah, that's impressive. 20 unanswered points from the last 3 quarters for Lone Star in order to get the win there. How about let's stick with Frisco. Frisco Reedy and the Lions playing against Lovejoy and the Leopards. These are 2 undefeated teams. Reedy looking to be the first 7-0 team in the DFW area, and they do just that, and they do it emphatically. So much for an undefeated season for the Lovejoy Leopards. Holy cow.
I tell you what, it was a feel-good story coming into tonight, what Lovejoy had done. Like I said, I mean, it's not a team that you do schedule for homecoming, but tonight, yeah, you schedule him. Look, Josh Foskey. This man is on fire, man. This guy is right now. I mean, I believe he's already at 1,400 yards throwing for the year. Wow. And a quarterback, that's an amazing.
We talk about Reedy being one of the more underrated teams in the area, and that defense, for them to do that to that Lovejoy offense, which has just been putting up crazy numbers. That is a Reedy team, incredibly underrated, and as good as they are on offense, man, that defense is special.
And an explosive second quarter. 28 points for Reedy, basically just waved goodbye to Lovejoy there.
Yeah, that's unbelievable to look at that and say, hey, we shut down really one of the top offenses coming into the season in Lovejoy overall. I mean, Lovejoy put up 55 points per game and 492 yards total on average heading into week 7, and they get shut out under 100 yards total. Both of those totals will go down a little bit after that. But Frisco Reedy now moves on. They'll play Denton Braswell, Frisco Lebanon Trail. Those both should be victories for Reedy. So 9-0.
Reedy's going to start gaining some clout, man.
You go into a bye week, and then you take on Princeton to finish out the season. This could be a 10-0 Reedy team heading into playoffs if you're not careful.
That's a nice bye, too, at the end of the season. Get a little fresh right before the playoffs kick in.
Yeah,
Reedy, something special.
Yeah, they could be somebody to pay attention to in the 5A playoffs. Let's go to 6A real quick. 9-6A to be exact. And the Jesuit Rangers led this game against the Prosper Eagles, looking to try and get off the schneid. They were 2-3. And then the late field goal from the Prosper Eagles wins it for Prosper.
Mr. Cade York.
Wow.
3 for 3 on field goals, and he had the game winner right there with just a few seconds left. And this was the first half was all Prosper. Second half was all Jesuit. But the entire game, you know whose fingerprints were all over it? Mr. Wayne Anderson, senior running back. We talked about him coming into the game. The dude has been a stud. 8 yards a carry, 10 TDs coming into the game. Well, he had 8 yards a carry today, 231 yards. He did not score, but the dude was dominant. It was the battle of the Shoeman and the Shoemaker at quarterback. Shoemaker comes out on top. Now, it didn't have one of those explosive, incredible Prosper-style passing attack games, but 182 yards, efficient, 17-24, 2 touchdowns, outdueled Kevin Shoeman. And credit to Prosper,
all
man.
about that ground game, man, with Wayne Davis. Didn't score, but he got all the dirty yards in this one.
Absolutely, man. And we talk about E.J. Smith, rightfully so. The dude had a nice game, but Wayne Anderson was the star of the night. Obviously, Cade York coming in 3 for 3 and getting that game winner. Way to go, Cade. Prosper doing it. And Jesuit came back in the second half. Couldn't hang on, man. That's a tough way to go.
Crazy. What momentum shift, right? You finally come back, you claw your way, you score with a minute and a half, and then Prosper right down the field in the blink of an eye.
When they needed to. Prosper did nothing in the second half, and then when they needed to, games on the line, they go down. Easy 18-yard field goal for Mr. York.
They had a Fisher-Newman return on the kick, 16 yards. They had 48 yards from Wayne Anderson, 3 yards, 5 yards, 2 yards from Wayne Anderson, and then the 18-yard field goal.
Wayne Anderson.
A lot of Wayne.
Team on your
Big
back,
boy Wayne.
Yeah, no little in that Wayne.
Put the team on his back and got the job done. Keller Timber Creek and Denton Geyer. This is a game where early on Denton Geyer was up 28-3. Well, Keller Timber Creek didn't go away, and they played very well down the stretch, and Denton Geyer just held on. Put up some big numbers, though, on offense. Despite the penalties, the Geyer Wildcats are back, baby.
Yeah, Geyer is feeling good about themselves. A big 35-25 victory, as you see there. The penalties an issue for Geyer. Mental mistakes, as we heard from Jackson Donovan, who called in, was at that game earlier. But Eli Stowers at quarterback for Geyer has figured it out. Just under 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Cobbs did it on the ground with 118 yards and a touch. But Seth Metter that receiver for Geyer has a beautiful connection working with the sophomore Eli Stowers right now. 10 receptions, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost 22 yards per catch. Really, really good day. Blake Irving on the ground for Keller Timber Creek. Solid night, 103 yards and a touchdown, but not enough against a really good Denton Geyer squad.
I love the stat line from Stowers. We've talked about him on and off throughout the season, but when you go 16 of 19 with 3 scores and almost 300 yards passing,
that's unconscious.
That's an efficient and a mature night. And that's
explosive and efficient. When you get the 2 E's at your quarterback position, explosive and efficient, wow. Big time Eli.
How about add a Y in there as well? A little bit of young quarterback to work with as well. So Denton Geyer overall, and you can see some of the explosiveness. Look at the blocking on the far side there from Denton Geyer, springing a run from Cobbs, who only had the 1 touchdown, but hey, he had 6.2 yards per attempt. Overall, Geyer is a team that we saw early in the season have some injury issues, really battled some tough scheduling, exactly. And Zach, I know you've been around this Denton Geyer team. Is this a special turnaround starting to happen for Geyer, who's 3-3, but could finish the season off, win a district title potentially, or at least contend in that district? I know Southlake's very strong there, and then make a run in the postseason?
Yeah, I think that they've got a huge game coming up against Keller, a game that I think that they will win against Keller personally. I think that they'll be able to run the football against Keller. Their defensive front seven's playing pretty well. It's going to be an outstanding game, but I think that they will beat Keller next week, and then it's just on to probably that second spot in the district. Since they dropped to Southlake Carroll, Carroll will have wins over Geyer and Keller, their 2 stiffest competitions. So for Geyer, they're going to be in a good position to make a run in the postseason, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they just seem like the kind of team that's just getting better and better as the weeks go on, healthier, and those young guys improving. If they can maintain that balance offensively, being able to run the ball, we know they can do that. If they can continue to throw the ball like they did tonight, that's going to be a really difficult team come playoff time.
So if I could get the camera on me here for just a moment here.
You deserve it.
I'm not – there's a little bit of a circle here, and it says Plano and McKinney, and it's underneath Zach. Zach has been the one that's been assigned to talk about this game. I think for Zach's sake,
talk about it. I don't care.
I'm going to talk about this game.
Can just not talk about it.
The McKinney Lions came into this game 0-5.
Got themselves a win tonight.
Got themselves a win against Zach Wolchuk's Plano Wildcats, 17-7, and a stifling defensive defensive outburst for the McKinney Lions overall, really shutting down the entire Plano offense. Let's look at these stats. Now, there's only 239 yards for Plano there, but the 2 turnovers definitely hurt the Wildcats. And, Zach, I know I said I'd take this over, but you know this Plano Wildcat team more than I do. What happened here?
I just asked Kelton Reed, who we've had on the show. He's the DB coach for Plano, and he texted me and said, we just lost to an 0-5 team. Playoffs going to be tough to make. Wow. I'm going to tell you right now, brother, you're not making the playoffs. You're not a good enough team to make the playoffs. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
This is a friend of yours.
I respect the self-awareness.
And you know what? Kelton, you can let me know what happened, and I'll be sure to update everybody. But that's the 3rd straight year Plano's lost to McKinney, and they did lose to an 0-5 football team, and they basically got beat at their own game. McKinney ran on them. They played great defense, and Plano couldn't get anything going on offense.
You know, sometimes they say there's a team out there that has your number. Maybe
seems
the
like
Lions have you guys' number. That's all it is.
Usually the majority of the district seems to have their number too. So
it's not even like McKinney had an explosive game. It's like offensively, if you had just
but
their offensive numbers,
there's obviously a story to this game because look at the, like you said, look at the yardage, 129
turnovers.
I got a reply from Kelton, and he said that the team just struggled offensively. They made mistakes on defense and special teams and just played sloppy football. And
special teams, yeah.
And if
that'll bite you.
You know, that's against an 0-5 football team. You're asking for ways to lose, and they found them.
Yeah, definitely. So one team that did find a way to win, and we can chalk this up as an upset. I don't know if it was that much of an upset for those that were involved because this is a team that's now looking to get into the playoffs. The Louisville Fighting Farmers over the Coppell Cowboys, 13-6, and we have the voice of the Louisville Fighting Farmers, Nick Nepic, on the line. Nick, first off, thanks for joining us again here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. This is a big-time win for Louisville, am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I would say the biggest win in a long time for this program. You know, Coppell came in at 4-1. Their only loss to Allen in a game where they only played a half. They had been really controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides in their games and able to run the ball well. They beat Hebron last week, and a lot of people thought that was the game that would decide the district. And I think, going into the game, Louisville thought they matched up well. What Louisville did, I think, matched up well with what Coppell liked to do. But I don't think anyone would have picked Louisville to win, myself included. I thought they could keep it close, but I did not expect a win.
Hey, Nick, this is Hekma here. I wanted to ask you, sir, I have in my notes that A.J. Newsome has to play error-free football. How did this kid play tonight? He
scored He scored the go-ahead touchdown, so let's give him credit there. It was a 4-yard run, a fake handoff, and he kept it himself. But A.J. struggled. He had a couple of tough throws. He was under pressure a lot tonight. And he wasn't helped by his receivers. In the fourth quarter, about halfway through, he threw a couple of great balls that should have been catches for first downs, big gains that were both drops. But A.J. has struggled this year, and he didn't throw any interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over. So I guess in that regard, he was error-free. But just haven't seen him really break out and do what most people thought he could do coming in from Oklahoma last season as a junior. He transferred to Louisville. He's run the ball pretty well, but as far as passing goes, he's really struggled, and he still seems like he's trying to find that touch.
Nick, Zach, with you, Ryan Hurt for Coppell was just killing everyone he played. And here come the Fighting Farmers defense. His kryptonite, 33 yards on the ground. What was the answer for Louisville tonight to slow down that vaunted Coppell rushing attack with the talent that they've got on that offensive line?
Well, the offensive line, 4 of the 5 have D1 offers, and then they have a backup.
Uh-oh. You there?
He's just about. So it's a formidable Coppell front. Offensive line is one of the best in the area, and it's not known. It's underrated, but everyone on the defensive line, it's about a 5-man rotation and then a couple of outside linebackers, but they really get after the running back. They don't get a ton of pressure. They get some timely pressure, and they had one of those tonight that won the game. But guys like Cadron Johnson, Christian Versay, Bryant Parker, David Adebenro, those 4 names were huge tonight, and they have been all season, and they are the reason they shut down Ryan Hurt. This defense has played one bad half all season, and that was against Flower Mound. That was the last time we talked, where Flower Mound ran all over them, and I think they took that as a challenge. And tonight, Ryan Hurt really had a couple of runs where he broke for more than 9 yards, and he had 10 yards on one, 11 on another. Other than that, he didn't get much, and it's credit to that defensive front.
Yeah, definitely. So that defense holding strong, much like they have throughout the entire 2018 season. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
13-6, the final score. Nick Nepic on the call as Louisville and the Fighting Farmers get a big-time district win, and they could potentially propel themselves to a 6A. And I know, Zach, you talked about it earlier, a potential crown in a tough district.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, really, when you look at what they've done and the position that they've put themselves in within this district. I think, without a doubt, they're now a playoff team. The question I have with Louisville, though, I mean, you look at their remaining schedule. They play Irving at home. That should be a win. The game against Irving Nimitz, you look at how they've been playing so far, it should be a win, but they end the year with Hebron and Flower Mound Marcus. Those are the 2 games to look forward to if you're a Louisville Fighting Farmer.
The playoffs start for Louisville, what, like week 9?
Week 8.
Friday, November 2nd, yeah.
Yeah, they start early because the 2 toughest teams probably at the back end of that schedule.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule.
Well, we have to say
tough
this,
district.
too. We have to say this, too. Guys, Coppell has been playing some really tough games.
Yeah,
starting from week 1 all the way through. And when you play games tough like that, you're bound to get caught on one of them. And hopefully this is the game that they get to go back and rebound, look at the tape, and come back tougher next week. Because, again, I think for the last, 3-4 weeks, every game they've been playing has been nail-biters.
And they usually come out on top, But like you said earlier, their quarterback position, what's going on with that? They throw Noel out there tonight. He didn't seem to have a great game. What's going on with the starter? That's a huge question mark for that Coppell offense.
So one of the teams throughout the course of the 2018 season that we've kind of kept an eye on and haven't really had a question mark on, but we've still wanted to see exactly what they would do in the district play was the Arlington Colts, 44-14 with a statement win over the Arlington Bowie Volunteers. And We've got Derek Finch on the phone. Derek was at this ball game where Arlington really just kind of ran up the score. Jahari Rogers, another nice night, running the football, throwing the football. Derek, first off, what were your thoughts about the Colts, and were they as dominant as the score shows?
Well, I said at the end of the first half that I didn't think the score was indicative of how the game had gone. And by the end of it all, that still sort of feels the same, because I thought Bowie was doing a lot of things well on offense. The Colts were just doing things better. And Bowie just kept shooting themselves in the foot with fumbles and turnovers and even a late INT. And ultimately what I think this game came down to was field goals, because Arlington has a kicker. The kid hit a 50-yard field goal, and I think hit 3 more, where Bowie, I don't even know if they tried a field goal. They tried a PAT, and they missed it. No, they didn't try a PAT. They went for 2, and they didn't get it. So I don't even know if they have a kicker on the roster. I thought that was a big momentum killer, because Bowie just kept having drives where they would get yards, but they couldn't get any points out of it because there'd be a fumble or they'd have to go for it on 4th down. Even I think they went for it on 4th down on their first drive inside the 20. And I thought, oh, they must not have a very good kicker. And they must not, because I don't think I ever saw one.
Well, Derek, that was going to be my question. The Arlington Colts defense, man, they seem to do a pretty good job shutting down that Bowie offense. You said they moved the ball well, but what was it about the Arlington defense? Just being opportunistic with the turnovers, or were they throwing things at Malcolm Mays that he wasn't used to seeing? Because that dude's been putting up numbers that whole Bowie offense has.
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing him put up some numbers, but give the front 7 of the Arlington a lot of credit. They had pressure on him the whole game. But it was one of those things where even when they didn't have pressure and Mays was able to scramble and try and find a receiver downfield, they were covered. It was just a perfect storm for I guess, Bowie, where it seemed like nothing could really go right. But, I mean, it seemed like things were going right. But even then, they just couldn't get anything going when it really, really mattered.
Derek, we've talked a lot about Jahari Rogers, the Arlington quarterback, on the show, and I definitely do want to hear your thoughts getting to see him play in person. But what about that balance, really, from Arlington? It looks like B.J. Rogers had an outstanding game on the ground with some really big runs, averaging 30 yards a carry. We know Jahari Rogers can get it done through the air, but that rushing attack for the Colts seemed like they finally found some footing.
Yeah, B.J. Rogers had a couple late huge runs that really racked up his total. I think he ended up with 180 yards rushing, something crazy like that. Jahari's good. I'd say Jahari's the truth as far as high school football goes. I was impressed with that kid, not just with the way he could run, because he can run. He's very fast. But I thought he had great vision downfield. He made some good throws, a couple deep balls. I think he had a deep touchdown, too. I'm blanking on who it went to, but he did have a deep touchdown that I thought, oh, that was a pretty ball for a running quarterback.
Well, hey, this is Hekma here, Derek. Now, I wanted to ask you, everybody came into tonight's game. Malcolm Mays was the guy to watch and all of that. Now, is this more of a testament, obviously, to the Colts' defense, or was it just an off night for Bowie?
I think the rain and the wet field had a lot to do with Bowie's problems offensively, because a couple of their fumbles seemed like unforced errors. The ball just slipped out of their arms, you know. They just had trouble holding on to that thing. They had a drive going where they were inside the 10 or inside the 20, I think early in the second quarter, where the snap was just low, and even though people could get their hands on it, it just kept squirting out, and it just ended up going to Arlington. So for me, I think it was just bad luck for Bowie. And that's not to say that Arlington did not play well defensively, because they did. But I thought Bowie had plenty of chances to try and make that thing a little closer. This thing was 23-14 at one point, and it seemed like, you know, this could turn into a game. Bowie might come back. But then there was another fumble, and then there was another fumble followed by a touchdown, and then an INT followed by another touchdown. And the thing just spiraled out of control so quickly for Bowie. It was kind of sad. It was kind of sad to watch.
Yeah, it was 23-14, then 21 straight points put up by Arlington, and that pick to seal the win. Derek Finch on the phone. Derek, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week, man.
All right, have a good show. Bye, Hekma.
All right, later.
Hekma's always the favorite. There he goes, Derek Finch. And another great report, because, man, Jahari Rogers is the truth. He saw it first person. Rogers, both Rogers really, also playing well for Arlington. And that's an Arlington Colts team headed up by Coach Peach that has just been impressive all the way through their schedule so far. They're definitely not out of it yet. They've got Arlington Martin next week, followed by North Crowley, but it definitely starts things off well with a 44-14 win over their crosstown rivals. Now let's go to probably the game of the night, really heading into the weekend. Plano East at Allen, and this is a game where Allen led early on. Plano East didn't go away, kind of fought back into it, but in the end, Allen does pull away. We've got Ashley Pickle on the phone. Ashley was live from Allen Eagles Stadium, fighting through the rain yet again. And Ashley, thanks so much for joining us. But a 74-36 win, impressive fashion from the Allen Eagles. Are they as advertised, Ashley?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at this game going into it. Plano East is 5-0 as well. They're 2-0 in district. District 9 is a tough district to play in the first place. I would say probably the best district that we have in 6A football. But they just put them away, and it was sad because the game was going so well for East at first too. You know, I mean, it was back and forth, tied 14-14 at the end of that first, and turnovers starting in the second quarter really hurt East, and then Allen just absolutely capitalized on it and just took the game away from them.
Ashley, how impressive was that Allen defense? We always hear about the offense, and they were spectacular tonight, 74 points. But what about that Allen defense against that Plano East offense?
Right, yeah. I mean, everyone focuses on Allen's offense because they put up just unbelievable numbers week after week. But the biggest credit to that definitely should go to their defense. They have an unbelievable secondary that was all over the East receivers all night. East is coming in with they have a trio of receivers that's just unbelievable, and that's what Coach said before the game. They just want to go out there and let it fly. That's what he said. And for them to be able to stop them, it looked like a collegiate team out there in their secondary, just being able to stop. The defensive line was phenomenal. Their defense is something that should get a lot more credit than they do.
Ashley, Zach with you. Obviously another phenomenal night for Grant Tisdale, Keldon Manning on the ground as well. But when East was keeping things competitive there, before it got out of hand, I know the pick six, I think was definitely a big momentum swing. But what was Allen going to, because they had an answer for every single East touchdown, and East defense just was not able to come up with that elusive stop.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I mean, Grant Tisdale was the MVP of the night. Unbelievable quarterback, 4-star commit going to Ole Miss. So that was the biggest part for them. Obviously, Clendon Manning is unbelievable on the ground. You've also got Theo Weiss Jr., who is a phenomenal receiver for them. But really, Grant Tisdale was the deciding factor in this game. He had 4 different rushing touchdowns. The defensive line could not stop him in the red zone. It was just completely impressive aspect of him playing tonight.
Hey, Ashley, this is Hekma. Now, I want to thank you for just making us look so good on this show. You do an incredible job. We couldn't do this without you. We call you the hardest working woman in high school sports for a reason, because you are. But let's talk some football here, okay? All right.
Okay.
So I got the real question for you. Now, look, everybody has a plan versus the Allen Eagles when they come into it, and it looks good. Everybody looks good versus them in the first quarter. Is there anything that you've seen that they do offensively or defensively that could be a wrinkle that some team somewhere in God's green earth could possibly expose?
I think just – man,
yeah, that's a tough question, right? Yeah,
right. I mean, in the first quarter, what they do, and the reason that East got off to such a good start, is they were really locked down on Theo for the receiver standpoint. The secondary had him on lockdown, and then having the defensive line, it always comes out ready to go, having Clendon on lockdown. The thing that hurt them again was Grant. I mean, he just continued to keep harping on that defensive line, and I think that teams bode well against Allen because they have their plays in the first. The defense is pumped. They're ready to go. They're ready to get those big stops. And then as the game just continues and as Allen just continues to pound the ball on offense, the defense gets worn out. Those guys are out there on the field so often. You can just see that the defensive line starts to get tired, and that's exactly why when you've got big defensive ends coming in, just honing in on Clendon, and then the defensive backs honing in on Weiss, then Grant just completely goes off, and he's able to sneak those quarterback sneaks down into the end zone. So I think that it's just the defense has got to really force turnovers against Allen, I think, is the biggest way that a team is ever going to be able to really come out and break that incredible winning streak that they have.
Yeah, they continue it tonight, now 6-0 on the 2018 season. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Y'all have fun.
Wow, another big win for Allen and the Eagles. 110 points put up, but it doesn't matter because 74 of those came from the Allen Eagles, and they continue to impress and just roll throughout Texas high school football, as it has been an incredible sight so far. It's 610 yards of total offense.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something.
In the water or what?
Somewhere. There's got to be something. There's got to be a wrinkle. There's got to be something. There's a coach somewhere has found it, he's seen it, and he knows that's the one Achilles heel of this team. No team is ironclad like that. Well, they have to do something that is
Man, you know what they have to do is build another high school there. They need to force them to say, all right, you're too darn big. You need to build another high school because they've just got too much talent. Their third stringers would be starters anywhere else they go. They're deep as can be. They lose their starting running back, Andrew Henry, for the season. Oh, here's this guy, Keldon Manning, who had 2 touchdowns and $115 on the ground tonight. It does not matter. They have the best athletes in DFW that go to Allen to play for them. There's no answer. Duncanville might be on paper the only team that can compete, but otherwise they're darn right scary, man. I want no piece of Allen. They haven't. This is 19 straight years since East beat them, and East has had some pretty darn good teams.
You just done kinged Allen right there, man. And I'm
they're
telling
the kingpins.
They're not.
They are.
They're the king until they get knocked off.
It.
Well, let's see.
Look at the streaks they put together.
Okay.
Wolchuk, what about your preseason pick of Duncanville for the state?
No. When Duncanville and Allen play in the area round, I pick Duncanville to win state, and I'll hold true to that, and I'll pick Duncanville. But my good Lord, I don't see any other team aside from the Panthers that can hang with Allen.
You are not wrong by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go from 6A, though, to the TAPS level, a matchup that we had really circled on paper. I'm sure both of these teams did as well. Bishop Dunn and Parish Episcopal, as we have Nick Laupius on the phone. Nick Laupius was on the call for Parish Episcopal as they fell to Bishop Dunn 16-7. And Nick, thanks for joining us again here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Overall, this was a defensive matchup, which is interesting because of the fact that Parish, one of the best offenses in all of TAPS in all of those levels. And then on the other side, Bishop Dunn, who, has a great defense, but they put up points too.
Yeah, hey, good evening, guys. I mean, the scoreboard is definitely not what we expected, but, I mean, it was really terrible conditions out there. Really, the first 3 quarters of the game, I mean, it did not stop raining until, like, halfway through the 3rd quarter. And it wasn't just like a drizzle. I mean, it was heavy downpour rain, which really was the biggest factor in tonight's game because neither team could get really anything going when they try to pass the ball. The quarterback would be slipping. The ball would go through the receiver's hands. And so, I mean, that was really the big reason why it was such a low-scoring game. The conditions were just awful, and neither offense could really get anything going.
Nick, how impressive was that Bishop Dunn defense? I mean, I know obviously the weather played a huge factor. If this game gets played indoors, I'm sure Parish puts up more than just 7 points. But how impressive was that Bishop Dunn offense for a Parish team that has not seen a defense anywhere close to that all season long?
And especially because Parish Episcopal, they have even one of their running backs is out for the season, I believe. But, I mean, they had a 3-headed running attack, and even they brought in a free safety, and he ran the ball a couple of times today. He looked really good. But, their running game has been phenomenal all season long, but that Falcons defensive line, play after play after play, just got they got the first push, and they were meeting the running backs and the quarterback at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. And they didn't let any of the running backs for Parish Episcopal really get downhill. And they were meeting them right at the line of scrimmage, didn't let them get any momentum whatsoever. And then when they did try and pass the ball, when Parish Episcopal tried to pass the ball, that secondary was phenomenal too in their coverage. And they had at least 1 interception. And they forced 3 fumbles because Parish Episcopal did have 4 turnovers tonight.
Nick, Zach with you, and I've got kind of a multi-layered question here. Obviously, Brian Williams for Bishop Dunn. the number one recruit in DFW. He's an outstanding player, and he made his presence felt again. The ball just seems to find him. Recovers a fumble in the end zone when this one was 7-6. Really a turning point play. Just kind of your thoughts on him and his performance. And then for Parrish, this was a big statement game for them against Dunn, who's a perennial power. Been there, done that. This was kind of their chance to almost legitimize themselves. How do you think this affects Parrish moving forward?
Yeah, so Williams, like you said, he recovered that fumble. It was when, you look at it for a second there, we thought it was 14-6, and we thought Parrish was going to start running away with this game. But with the fumble, and he had the wherewithal to recover it, because at first it looked like he had clearly crossed the plane. It looked like it was a dead ball, and no one really had tried to recover it, but Williams had the wherewithal to recover it, and good enough that he did, because that ended up, like you said, being a big turning point. And he was just all over the place tonight. He was, I tell you, there's a few times where Preston Stone was trying to get off the field where he was flushed out, but Williams was, almost right there. He can cover so much ground. He was a big part of why they played so well. And the second question, again, it's tough to really tell where they were at tonight against the Bishop Dunn team, because they couldn't get their regular offense going, trying to get that deep ball, especially with Preston Stone at the helm. He could not get the ball out, and when he did try to pass, there was 2 or 3 times where he just dropped the ball in those wet conditions and had to fall on him. But again, that probably does go back to the Bishop Dunn defensive line. I cannot emphasize enough just how much pressure they were getting on him. He had 2, maybe 3 seconds most back there in the pocket before he had to start running. That Falcons defense, that front 7 was absolutely phenomenal. And then, also you look at Parrish Episcopal, their defense was solid for the most part too. They gave up a 65-yard rushing touchdown, but a lot of turnovers on the offensive side gave Bishop Dunn a ton, or really good field position, and eventually they were able to take over. But again, it's just really tough to tell because the conditions were just so bad. And I've watched about 4 or 5 of those games now for Parrish Episcopal, and they just were not able to get that offense going because of that rain.
Thank you very much, Nick, for joining us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. That weather playing a factor, and it definitely played a factor for Parrish Episcopal. Thanks for talking with us. We'll talk to you again next week, man.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, there he goes, the Laup, Mr. Nick Laupius. And we're going to go from one team that struggled to get the offense going to another team that struggled to get the offense going. But this one ends up in one of the biggest upsets of the entire week. Cedar Hill, Mansfield Summit. Holy cow, Summit pulls off the victory 7-3 against a Cedar Hill team that, might I remind you, on the road at Waxahachie in their last game, put up 78 points, held to 3 points. The defense from Summit gets the job done. And we've got Adrian Jagish on the phone from Mansfield Summit. He was at the game. And what is one of the biggest upsets we've seen out of really the entire Week 7 slate? Adrian, tell us your initial thoughts on how Summit pulled this off.
Hi, guys. So I was really excited for this game because both Summit and Cedar Hill are both powerhouse teams. This season, Summit lost just one game in the entire season, and then they had one game that was canceled. But Cedar Hill was undefeated until tonight. I didn't want to go in being like, oh, Cedar Hill's going to win, because in my gut, I didn't know what was going to happen. I will say, I don't want to say the first 3 quarters of the game were boring, but both teams have such strong defenses, and anytime whoever it was, Cedar Hill or Summit, anytime they would try to go down the field, even 2, 3, 4 yards, they would just be tackled. And I interviewed Coach Hall, the head coach for Summit, and I asked him, I was like, hey, point blank, I was like, hey man, like, what did you tell your guys during halftime? Because it was just tackle after tackle, and he was like, keep tackling. And I was like, that's a good strategy right there. But it was really interesting. I've watched into games where I'm like, oh, there's obviously a clear winner. You know, the Jesuit game against the Keenan Boyd, and I really thought Jesuit was going to win. But today I was driving in. The weather was really bad. I honestly thought they were going to cancel the game. There was a 30-minute lightning delay, but they played. It rained the entire game. That was definitely evident throughout the game. There's tons of fumbles. Do you want to give a shout out to number 9 on Summit? Number 9 Cedar Hill. Let's pull it up. Number 9 Cedar Hill, Kirk Lockhart. He did 3 interceptions that were glorious, I will say.
Hey, Adrian.
And then,
I got a question. I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off, man, but I had a quick question for you, man. Obviously with the rain and all of that, the guy Shane Lawrence from Cedar Hill, obviously Mr. Do-It-All, an awesome, explosive guy. Do you think that the weather was what impacted him, or was it just Mansfield Summit's defense was just awesome tonight?
Honestly, a little bit of both. So I was thoroughly impressed with Summit's defense tonight, but it was cold, guys. It was wet. Mm-hmm. I think the whole time it didn't go above 62 degrees this entire game, and that was like the rain. I think the players seemed miserable, the coaches seemed miserable. So I think everybody was really distracted tonight.
Adrian Jagish on the phone from Cedar Hill and Mansfield Summit. Adrian, thanks so much for joining us. Stay dry, because I know you were in the rain earlier, but drive safely on your way back home.
Thanks, you guys too.
Friday Night Stars continuing here in overtime, and man, that was a crazy defensive battle. 7-3 overall. Cedar Hill just couldn't get off the ground. Maybe it was the weather, Hekma. He said it was a little bit of both, but Summit defensively.
It had to have been the weather, man. Yeah. I think
Summit's a great defense, though.
They're a good defense, but
they put up 3
I think there were
points
11 total fumbles combined in this one, is what I've seen. So, look, it completely limited this football game. I think if this were played, not even necessarily on a different turf, but if there's no rain, and Shane Lawrence certainly is hurt. I don't think that he's healthy, but it all kind of fell into place for Summit to pull that upset tonight.
Yeah. Tonight is the perfect storm, no
literally.
I mean, and you talk about the thing that when you have those teams that have those awesome explosive running or passing games, this is what we're talking about. Parrish, I wanted to just say, if Parrish sees done again with the dry weather condition, they're going to get them. But in a game like this with Cedar Hill versus Mansfield, guys, you got to know Shane Lawrence is an athlete.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to hold that guy for 4 quarters like Summit did, and they may have benefited greatly from those weather conditions.
No question about it. 7-3 Summit with a massive win over Cedar Hill in district play. How about some more district play? 5-6A, South Lake Carroll and Trophy Club, Byron Nelson. South Lake Carroll and the Dragons. That was a team heading into this we talked about as a potential state championship team, continuing to be undefeated. Were they going to get challenged by an 0-5 team? Well, not really the score you would really expect out of this game. 41-17 was the final score. South Lake and the Dragons on top of Trophy Club Byron Nelson, but really not the blowout that you thought of, and Trophy Club kind of put up some points in that second half.
Yeah, second half means that, Riley Dodge pulled his guys in the first half, let them rest. And then, obviously Trophy Club is a young team, so they get a few feel-good points in the second half. But still, the fact still remains that the South Lake Carroll Dragons are dominant in that division, and they're going to run the table.
Yeah. This seems like one of those games for South Lake, coming off that huge emotional win over Geyer last week.
Right.
You saw Byron on the schedule. You knew you were going to get the win. You're just trying to get through, to be honest.
And Will Bowers needed this one. He needed a game to come back through the air. 3 touchdowns tonight, 20 of 30, 207 yards. Efficient night for Will Bowers.
Yeah, and you always see Will Bowers in that stat sheet. It's always a big-time guy to look at. But overall, 384 yards total. South Lake Carroll dominant over Trophy Club Byron Nelson. How about dominant? Let's stick with that. Duncanville, Lake Highlands. Zach, your state championship pick. We talked about Allen being that #1 team, but Allen didn't even win as bad as Duncanville did in this matchup. Tell me about the Panthers, man.
Well, look, Duncanville's a team 76-0. They get the victory on Lake Highlands. They are a complete football team. Hekma, we've been talking about it really all season long. When you look at Beeson on the defensive side of the football, but Jaquindon Jackson, just an absolutely sensational player. 2 touchdowns rushing tonight. Really didn't do anything through the year. They didn't need him to. Tristan Smith was their leading rusher, averaging 14 yards a carry. Had a couple of scores, 141 yards. But there was nothing Lake Dallas could do. I think it really just all comes down to how impressive that Duncanville defense is. We know Jaquindon Jackson's a special player on offense, but defensively, they are slaughtering teams.
Yeah, right now, I mean, when you look at Duncanville, obviously I want to tell you guys this too. Also, man, Coach Reginald Samples he watches and he reads all of the tape. He looks at everything, and so he knows how much Allen ran the score up with tonight. And they want to be just as impressive because they know that they have a showdown coming on the horizon. But the one thing that I'm looking at here that does not make me feel good is that 3 yards of passing. I mean, even in junk time.
I don't know. They had 3 defensive touchdowns tonight and 2 safeties. They had no reason to throw the football. I think Jaquindon Jackson has but we've seen it this year.
Okay.
He can throw it. I don't think that's something to be worried about. It does look weird when you look at it.
Yeah, 401
yards. 3
yards.
defensive touchdowns, not to mention the success you had running the football, plus 2 safeties on defense. There's just no need, man.
Overall, just a monster performance, though. I don't know if I've ever seen a 76-0 score with 3 yards passing, but I don't know. I feel like that's even more impressive if you're able to do it that way.
Okay.
Do what you got to do, man. Duncanville's strong in a 76-0 win. A strong outing, even though it was a little bit closer than we thought between Highland Park and Mansfield Legacy. That final score, just not what really Highland Park had in mind initially whenever they looked on the other side of the ball and saw no Jalen Catalon, but 28-7 was that final score. And we've got Miles Dunklin, the voice of the Highland Park Scots, on the line. Miles, it was a sloppy game. We talked to Coach Cunningham earlier from this one, but this is a massive monsoon that they had to play in tonight.
Oh, it was just ridiculous, especially in the first quarter and the first half. I wasn't sure that there were going to be any scores in the game. It was so sloppy. The drainage at Vernon Stadium was not good, and both teams were basically standing in puddles throughout the game. I thought the ball might float away every time they spot it, but I know I overheard you guys saying that you didn't think it was that big of a win by Highland Park, 28-7. In reality, with all things considered, in terms of the circumstances and the rain and everything like that, it was a pretty thorough win by Highland Park as Chandler Morris maybe had his most impressive outing of the season. The stats won't show you, but he played a really great game tonight, and Highland Park definitely impressed both offense and defense.
Chandler Morris overall, we talked about him really every single week here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. He's a special talent for Highland Park overall, but also you got to look at Finn Corwin, who's just a touchdown machine in that receiving core as well. We saw the catch from Drew Dodge earlier. Tell us about really that passing attack in the offense and why they continue to stay so methodical underneath Randy Allen and company.
Well, Kyle, they're just so incredibly deep, and they had a couple quarterbacks transfer out of the program as well, the likes of Kevin Schumann and Stone there at Parish Episcopal. I mean, they had all 3 of those guys within 2 classes at Highland Park. That's just at the quarterback position. Wide receiver, they are incredibly loaded. They go 8 deep at that position. You could take out their top 4 guys, and they'd still have a really good receiving core. That's probably the best position on the entire team there. But, also the offensive line really helps them get it going. They got some really good players there. Reagan Riddle is headed to Rice, the left tackle. And they haven't really gotten the running game going like they'd want to. Benner Page doesn't have a touchdown yet on the season, but the passing attack, they have so many weapons, and Morris does a really great job of spreading it out to as many guys as possible, even though more often than not Chandler is able to find Finn Corwin open behind the defense.
Yeah, definitely. So it seems like every time we look up, Finn Corwin scoring a touchdown for the Scotties. Had another one tonight in a 27-8 win. Miles, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Thanks. You guys are doing a great job. Always enjoy it.
Appreciate it. Miles, always great to have on. Has so much knowledge about Highland Park. And we mentioned Chandler Morris. We actually had Guy Frazier at the game. Guy had a chance to catch up with Chandler Morris after this win over Legacy. Let's take a look.
Guy Frazier with Friday Night Stars. You're a junior quarterback for Highland Park. Chandler Morris. Chandler, we're standing out in the rain. Big game tonight. Obviously, it's a monsoon out here. Talk a little bit about your game, involving with a wet ball and how you're able to handle yourself.
Thank you.
There you go. Now we got you.
It was good hitting today.
Yeah, there we go.
It was tough with the wet ball. I mean, we're an air offense. We got our run game established, which was huge. We needed that, and I thought we did a great job. Our defense did a great job, and I mean, I thought it was a good night.
Slow start there, understandable, just kind of punting the ball back and forth with each other between Legacy and Highland Park. Y'all finish off the first half strong, though, with 2 quick touchdowns. Talk about those 2 plays and kind of momentum y'all are able to get on offense.
So I mean, I felt like that's when we got our passing game going. And that was, like you said, it was a big momentum shift right there with the special teams turnover. That was huge, and we were able to capitalize, and it was just all around just a great effort.
Big win tonight. Y'all are obviously leading the district now. What's the big picture for this team? Is it championship or bust? Is it just 1 week at a time? How do y'all look at it?
It's 1 week at a time. Complacency is our word for the rest of this year. We can't get complacent. We gotta go out. The end zone has a receiver. It's the worst team in the district. It's the best team in the district. Every week we gotta practice with intensity of just a championship intensity. And that's our thing.
Chandler, congrats on the big win tonight. Good luck going forward, and I'm sure I'll see y'all down the road.
Thank you.
Wow, what an interview afterwards. Guy Frazier working really his tail off, but Chandler Morris too,
man. In the elements. Like, no, well, let's get him here under the umbrella as well. What a guy.
Yeah, what a sweet
guy is
gentleman.
the guy, man.
Yeah.
Just a cool interview to be able to look at and look over after a win like that in such a crazy game. Saw some of the highlights. You heard the excitement from Miles Dunklin, who we just talked to on the call in the background a little bit. But overall, a big win for Highland Park and one that they were able to survive. Imagine if Legacy would have had Jalen Cattle on, though, and how that game might have turned out. It's a big
and a few other pieces, man. They've just been injury-laden. Just a poor team. Man.
Watch out for Legacy, though. Legacy's a good football squad, and they'll figure out a way to try and get back, at least in the thick of things in that district. Now let's move on, guys. 6A, 5A, 4A. We got to run down some scores. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. An outstanding Week 7. We've gone through some of the highlighted games. We've heard from all across the area. Zach, start us off at the 6A level. Let's run through some of those scores.
Well, 13-6. We know Louisville beat Capel 35-20. Hebron got the victory over Flower Mound Marcus. Irving MacArthur, a big 30-9 win over Irving to keep their playoff hopes alive. Prosper, the comeback victory, maybe the game of the night, a 30-28 victory over Jesuit. 38-31 Fossil Ridge over Keller Central. And then Geyer, 35-25. They're peaking at the right time with a big win over Keller. Timber Creek. McKinney knocks off Plano 17-7, their first win of the year. Allen all over Plano East 74-36. And what was maybe the game of the night didn't turn out that way. Allen flexing their muscle. McKinney Boyd 52-13 over Plano West. South Lake Carroll 41-17 over Trophy Club. Byron Nelson. Arlington and Arlington Bowie, we talked about it earlier. Big win for Arlington, 44-14 there. Lamar of Arlington getting a win over North Crowley, 63-42. And then the upset of the night, Mansfield Summit 7-3 over Cedar Hill. Crazy, crazy game. Mansfield Summit still unbeaten in district.
Wow.
Duncanville a 76-0 win over Lake Highlands. South Grand Prairie over Grand Prairie 14-6. Big win for SGP. Holtham does it.
Wow.
They knock off Euless Trinity 48-35. Michael Black takes control at the end of that game.
The other upset of the night.
Holtham is for real, absolutely. Now, both undefeated teams, but a lot of people didn't give Holtham the credit they deserved. They get it now. Big win over Euless Trinity. 26-6. DeSoto over Mansfield. Mansfield Lake Ridge takes care of business against Waxahachie.
Wow.
35-21. Yeah, sorry about that one.
Darn.
And then Mesquite, 20-point winners over North Mesquite, 42-22. They get the victory there. So a big win for the Skeeters. They needed that one to stay alive in that district playoff race. Then you look at Richardson, Berkner, J.J. Pierce. J.J. Pierce keeps it rolling, 35-24. Rockwall 47-7 over Rockwall Heath. And those are your 6A scores.
Wow, I think the biggest one that stands out to me, other than the ones that we've talked about, Holtham and Euless Trinity.
Huge game.
Unbelievable. I think that's absolutely an unbelievable win. You talked about them being undefeated, both teams coming into this, but Euless Trinity, if you thought one team was going to take advantage of the trenches and the downright downpour that we've had in the North Texas area tonight, it would be a Euless Trinity type ball club.
Mike Black is the real deal.
But Mike Black gets the job done, and we've got to keep an eye on the Buffaloes because that might be a team that's going to make some noise. Holtham, wow, that's an impressive win. 5A scores, Eric, let's run it down.
Birdville 49-0 over Carrollton Creekview. Carrollton Newman Smith 41-7 over RL Turner. Denton Ryan 45-30 over Colleyville Heritage. Colony 56-21 over Frisco Heritage. Frisco Lone Star right here at the Ford Center 27-6 over Frisco Independence. Reedy put it on Lovejoy 51-0. Grapevine 63-34 over Denton. McKinney North put up 90 points, 90-32 over Wiley East. Mesquite Poteet 46-28 over Texarkana, Texas. We got Tyler John Tyler 29-22 over West Mesquite. Woodrow Wilson 48-15 over Bryan Adams. We talked about the Highland Park 28-7 victory over Legacy. Red Oak 26-12 over Kimball. Mansfield Timberview 47-8 over Samuel. 27-6 victory for Midlothian over Everman. And Kaufman 39-14 over North Forney.
Wow. 5A scores. Let's look at the 4A and other scores. Hekma's got it rolling.
All right. Melissa 47-0 over Anna. Paris 54-14 over Salina. Ferris is 30-22 over Goodley. Aubrey beat, Vernon beat Aubrey 30-14. Alvarado beat Carter High School 35-6. Can't believe that one. Sunnyvale beat Caddo Mills 42-14. Crandall 42-14 over Maybank. And then the final score, North Dallas is lost to Hillcrest 58-62, guys.
Wow. There you go. The 4A and other scores. We've run down every score in the entire North Texas area. Guys, now it's time to give our star of the night overall. Zach, what's going on?
I'm just that Denton Ryan game, buddy. We barely talked about it.
Let's talk about it.
30.
No. What's that game?
Ryan over Colleyville Heritage. Ryan got the victory. Hekma and I over here.
You're feeling good about that, aren't you?
I just knew it was going to happen. Cool. It's one of those I got to say, I told you so, brother. Okay. Told you so on that one. But, hey,
the rivalry.
Just an overall great football game.
Yeah. Okay.
For Denton Ryan.
Denton Ryan. Who's your star of the night, Eric?
Oh, it's absolutely kicker. Mr. Cade York. For Prosper. He was 3 for 3 on field goals, and he hit the game winner as time expired. Prosper beats Jesuit 30-28 in a nail-biting game. Shout out to Cade York.
I think I got to go Grant Tisdale. 6 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
Big game coming in against Plano East, and he had an answer every time. Grant Tisdale, unbelievable game for Allen.
Guys, this is a game I wish I could have suited up for, and this is the Parish Episcopal Bishop Dunn game. My guy is baby Brian Williams. Amazing game. Good 2 choice. Turnovers.
Yep.
Monster game.
Best player in the state.
Yeah, he's really good. He's definitely something to look at on that Dunn defense. How about team of the week? This is a tough one because there are a lot of good teams and a lot of big upsets in this one. Eric,
yeah, between Summit and Haltom, I'll take Haltom just because no one had him in that game. So, yeah, huge victory over Trinity.
I'd like to go Haltom as well. I'm going to go with Louisville, though. Huge win for the Fighting Farmers over Coppell.
I'm drinking the juice right now at Bishop Dunn because they pulled it off. I'm telling you, that was one that no one had them picked in, guys.
Respect.
Yeah, that was one that nobody had them picked in. Wow. Overall, just an unbelievable. I think I'm going to go with Mansfield Summit there in my team of the week. I mean, what a win. 7-3, a gutsy win in the mud, in the dirt. What you got, Hekma?
I should have said McKinney Boyd.
McKinney Boyd?
Wow. They had a huge victory over Plano this week.
It was McKinney.
Excuse me.
So get your facts straight.
We check that. You suck it, psych.
Oh! Wow. Oh, my goodness. Rude. What is happening? Guys, what a week of Friday Night Football. Week 7 has come to a close in the North Texas area. I do want to thank everybody involved in this. We've got Chris Beam. We've got Matt holding it down. Chance and Anthony, 2 Hebron grads, getting it done. For Eric Chiofalo, Zach Wolchuk, and Hekma Harrison, I'm Kyle Youmans saying God bless. This has been a presentation of Game On Sports.